What is up, everybody? It's me, Duke Farley, back at it again on Lost at Sea. Tonight, I am joined by the sixth placer, sixth juror of Ascendance Live Season 3. I'm here with Josh. Josh, how are you? What has been going on, man?
I'm doing really good. It has been like a really absolute joy just to go through this whole experience, like the from the filming to the game to watching to becoming friends with everybody, then watching it, the podcasts, the coverage, like having people just completely like talk about your game and all that is really fun to watch, especially like for me, like my journey specifically, watching myself on the show, it feels like I'm like in a scripted show. Obviously, none of it was scripted, but I feel like my story in general was like, someone wrote out, "Oh, this would be a really good story," and it went exactly like that. And so I'm really happy with how everything has been. So,
Throughout watching the podcast, have you disagreed with any of the takes on your specific game?
um, I mean, I think that it's been I think a lot of the takes on my game have been fine. I think a lot of people have been critical on me, which very fair. Um, it's been fun to see a lot of people like say, "Oh, I'm going home next," and then I don't, and then that continues to happen.
You prove them wrong.
Yeah, so like proving people wrong is like really exciting. Um, but I would say most of it's fair. Like I deserve a lot of the heat that I've gotten, and so
Well, Josh, as you step away, probably have to close the door or something. But I wanted to ask you because I remember specifically your preseason interview. You
mhm,
mentioned that, this was a business trip for you. And I
yeah,
kept telling people that were coming on the podcast, like, this guy, he doesn't really care too much about, making friends and shaking hands. He kind of just wants to do whatever it takes to win. Um, was that basically your mindset, like going into this game? Like, I'm willing to, pull the invisible knife out on anyone.
yeah. Like a couple weeks before I went there, I'm like, I'm going to just completely shut off like my emotions. I'm going to go in there and I'm just going to like vote anyone out. Like, I'm not going to get too attached and it's just going to be how I am. And I told you on my podcast that I was going to be like, do that. But I don't think you or I thought to the extent that I did would have done that. So like that was really like my mindset going in. Like, but I was still like a softie in some aspects. Like I still made genuine relationships and I cried at some points, it was really hard on me. But like it was mainly like I'm here to win and it's like if I upset some people, I upset some people, which I did, but that's just basically what I was gonna do.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask, obviously, there's a couple huge moments involving you, a couple of huge arguments involving you throughout the course of the game, but um, you kind of had a mentality with a couple of your allies where Emily specifically, I remember, was the first person that had a power, confided in you, right?
Mhm.
And you were quick to kind of try to flush the power out of the game if you couldn't kind of get it in your possession. So I
Yeah.
wanted to ask about Emily first before we dive into Billy. But
Yeah.
Emily first. Let's
So
talk about that.
yeah, so Emily was my first like real ally. Um Honestly, like seconds in, like we sat next to each other, we looked at each other, and I'm like, I want to work with her, and she wanted to work with me, and we like from the get-go, we're gonna be like, kind of like the Joker and Harley Quinn in a way. Because but so a lot of the stuff that I said on like the camera was just kind of to okay, let me rephrase. Emily was a close ally of mine who I never wanted to go home, but I kind of said some stuff like in confessional, like, oh, if Emily goes home, at least I'll get the advantage. So like I never wanted to like flush that advantage out of the game from her hands. Like I actually told her to use her steal a vote at the time. But I kind of said some things just to say some things, just to for the TV. But you know,
sometimes you gotta, sell it for the TV.
I actually there was the scene where I'm like, I kind of hope she gets voted out with it,
Yeah.
and so I can get it. I completely forgot about that when it got aired. She was like, Josh, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry.
I
But
forgot about that.
we were close allies during the game, and I actually didn't want to vote her out. Basically last minute I was told she's going home. So I'm like, I can't vote in the minority. So it looked like, oh, Josh just like got rid of her and didn't care, but I actually really cared.
In the beginning of the game, Adam was voted out and you voted in the minority. And
Mhm.
you said something a little cryptic in your reasoning for why you did that. Can you just explain like what you meant by, when you said, I forgot the exact wording that
Yeah, I
you
was
said.
like, this is to send a message.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that whole first round, I didn't want Adam to go. He was my shuttle buddy going into it. And like him and I, we built a little bit of rapport in the beginning. And once it was determined like Adam was gonna go, I thought it was like the perfect opportunity for me to just kind of throw a vote. And in my confessional, it was basically meaning like, Keaton, like your time is short in this game. Like I'm gonna vote here. I'm gonna get you type of mentality. So that was basically it.
Okay. Yeah, I remember back in the beginning of the season, we were kind of like trying to figure out what exactly that meant. So that's
Yeah,
good to get
no,
that clarity.
I am a sucker for survivor quotes and confessionals and like voting confessionals and stuff. So like throughout the game, I my friends clown me on it because they're like all throughout the game I'm saying like these like survivor lines into the camera, and they're like, Josh, you are just so ridiculous. Whenever I'm saying like, because throughout the show I'm saying like, this is where games are won and lost, or tomorrow we make our apologies, tonight we make our move, or quick little quotes like that.
Did you research some of those going in and have them prepared for when the
Oh
time is needed?
yeah. Yeah, like I mean I say that I quote them like on a daily basis to my friends, or like just randomly. And then I wanted like I wanted to have good one-liners, for votes or for the confessionals, because like we are in a show. So like it would fit well.
Yeah. Josh, run me through your relationship going into the game with Rocky. I want to know what the before the scenes beef was.
So Rocky and I played a game called Switchboard, which was like a Big Brother game. Um and it was like I was there, he was there, and like so was Thomas Ibarra from season 2. And basically it came to the game where Rocky had won HOH, and then he was gonna put me and Thomas up, and I kind of like wormed my way out of that, and then I basically like betrayed him, and then he got all pissed off and said didn't want to have anything to do with me. And then we meet in a month later on Ascendance, and I'm like, well, this is my luck. And like Rocky is, he's the type of guy who like he wears his heart on his sleeve, and like it's a good thing, but it's also like I'm like, hey, dude, like that was an org, like, but obviously there was a little bit of like skittishness going into it with that relationship, and we wanted to rebuild that, but it was going to take some time. And ultimately, we hit an impasse, and I tried to gun for him, and obviously
Multiple
totally
times.
unrelated. Yeah, I mean, like I tried to gun for him. What happened was, I mean, I had the opportunity to vote him out with the pendant, but I didn't because I didn't think it was the best thing for my game. But then when I found out he had a pendant himself, and I tried to go after him, and that failed. And then obviously all the emotion from before to now came all the way up, and he felt super burned by me, and like now we were basically bitter enemies in the game. So
So the decision, like the
yeah, I'm
big
just cool.
fight.
Sorry,
Oh,
I'm just
go
opening my
ahead.
door. Come on, go. Right done. Okay. All right, go ahead.
The
So,
big
now I can go. My bad.
no worries. The big confrontation between you and Rocky, happens during when he kind of confides in you about having the pendant of
Yeah.
power. And um he does, and then you kind of try to sell him out on that one and try to get him voted out.
Mhm.
Why did you do that round? And then why did you ever think about, oh, maybe he's trying to, just actually entrust me with this information?
Yeah, so up to that point, we really didn't have too much of a game relationship. We were like still kind of like we were cool, but we weren't in alliances together, and there was not much of a working relationship going. So when and my position at that point was really shaky. Um, After like Billy was blindsided, I had dependent played on me. Now we're going into this double. I needed a new course of action, right? So my thought process was I really tried to wanted to work with both Ozzy and Sarah. Like they were a duo in the game. They had been targeted a lot. So I'm like, let me just try to build something with them. Rocky tells me that he has a pendant, which is totally out of the blue for me. I have no idea why he would share this information with me. So like I thought that there wasn't anything I thought it was weird to me. Plus, he told me there was one thing he told me in that line, which was, I have the pendant. And he said, I've already told Taylor and Kira about it. That's what he told me. And Kira already had a pendant too at that point in the game. So I'm thinking, okay, so I'm the third person he's told. He got, well, technically fourth, fourth, because he got the pendant from Rory. So he's got Rory, he's got Taylor, he's got Kira ahead of me in the pecking order, and they have two idols. So I'm like, I need to totally flip this game around. So let me tell Sarah and Ozzy. That way we can take control of the game and get him out in like a 3-2-1 vote, not include Ali. And then we could take the game for ourselves. And instead they rat me out and they push me down even further than I already am. But you know, it is what it is.
Let's stop. Let's go back a little bit because
Yeah.
I feel like that is a pivotal part of where you kind of see yourself at the bottom of the game for
Mhm.
the remainder of your time. But I have to ask about the first pendant.
Yeah.
Um, you find this pendant of power with Billy under the house in the rubble as you guys are searching outside, and obviously the vote is going to be close between Billy and Sarah. It ends up being a tie. Rocky comes in to the elimination with his power, and you vote Billy out. And then during the tie, you decide to um, out his pendant of power to everybody. Were you the only person that knew about it to your knowledge at that point? And let's just walk through that whole decision.
I know. I've thought about this whole that day a lot. Um, because ultimately, do I regret, doing it that? I don't want to say I regret it. I Because in the moment I did what I thought was right. But it obviously wasn't a game correct move in my opinion. Because it shoved me all the way to the bottom, and after that move, I had to do catch up the whole time. It was just fighting, clawing my way through, which was fun, but it's just not the correct way to win. But yeah, I think I was the only one who knew, and then I told Emily, who she didn't tell anyone, but then she got voted out. And then I told Kira, and those were the only two people I told. Kira and I were roommates, and we were building a rapport, and I wanted to share that with her, and I don't think she told anyone. So those were the only two people who knew. And that day, I guess I was going through like a lot of just paranoia and misjudgment because what happened was the first the first day of vote outs were Adam, Connor, and Erica, three people who I like was really invested in playing the game with. Connor's like obviously one of my best friends, and um, I remember that night I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I'm playing this game really scared. Like I only have one regret this entire game, and that was not voting with Connor, and I'm voting against him, and I really wish I did because I was too scared to vote in the minority because I was scared about my position, but I should have, and I'm really sorry to him for that. But after that day, I told myself I'm not going to play scared anymore. Um, so when Billy, uh, when the Billy vote is approaching, I have the opportunity to vote him out. Like he was a close ally of mine, but there was something in the previous round that made me really, really like skeptical of him. And I'm not even sure I've even discussed this with anyone yet. Was the round that him, Taylor, and AJ were captains, right? They apparently set up the teams to try to eliminate or split up Sarah and Madison and Ozzy and all that.
Mhm.
So Billy was a captain, and I was really like hoping he was going to pick me to be on his team because we had just found the pendant like 2 hours before, and he doesn't pick me on his team, and I end up getting like last pick by like AJ on a team with like Sarah and Kira, for I think, and we win the double that night. But there was something about it where I'm like, why didn't he pick me on his team? And I'm like, I thought it would have been his first or his second choice, and I wasn't either. So I was like, that's so weird to me. But so I lost a little bit of trust there. Obviously, it shouldn't have been enough for me to just like lose it. In the vote between Billy and Sarah, I was telling both sides exactly what they wanted to hear, but I really didn't know what I was gonna do.
Oh wow.
It's so crazy to me. Like I was literally in between two different roads of the game. Like if I vote out Sarah, whole game is different. And now if I vote out Billy, we see exactly the road we have now. So I wasn't sure what. So that's why like there's a conversation where I have with Ali where I'm like, I'm gonna go tell him to use it. And then I have a conversation with Kira and I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna vote out Billy. It's so going back and forth. But I'm like, do I just continue the road that I've been going on, or do I completely switch up the game? And I wanted like a reshuffle. That was the first round that it was like everything could have shifted again. And I broke bad, like Walter White, you know.
You but yeah, I mean, obviously it was something that was talked about at length on my podcast, the decision to go about that.
Yeah,
And we, thought it was way too early for
yeah.
that move. And, obviously we had perceived, and like you're saying, Billy was a close ally of yours, but there's a little bit of concern, you know, a lot of concern throughout Ascendance is stemmed from picking teams. And you telling me that now, it's interesting to hear there was a little bit of paranoia with the round prior. um
There was paranoia, and I really wish I that me and him could have that night discussed more about the game because I'm someone who like when I work with my allies, like I want to like actually game plan and like talk about like okay, what's our next course of action? Like that's why like Emily and CJ were close allies of mine because we would talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. I'm not saying me and Billy didn't talk, but I think with how we should have been a lot more. There should have been way more communication between us because I think I just slowly started to just like drift, but I had to get pulled back in, and that's just it's more of a fault of mine than his. But first live game type of stuff, I'm just always thinking people are out to get you, even if they're not.
yeah, you live and you learn.
Mhm.
So this was kind of a, put you on the radar for sure in the
Yeah.
game. And Billy obviously gives his pendant of power to CJ.
Mhm.
And then the following round, you're able to get that pendant of power and use it to your advantage because everybody tries to vote you out next.
Yeah.
So run me through. I spoke to CJ. I think I posted his exit interview. He told me that the discussion between you guys, he had some stipulations.
Mhm.
And number one was you had to make a scene, and number two was he wanted you to vote for AJ.
Oh my
Did
gosh. That
did you
was
have yeah, go ahead. Did you have any
there's
say in that?
there is nothing more frightening in Ascendance Live than when you know your game is finished and you have like a 0.1% chance of staying. To see to when you run from the emotions of like, okay, people are slow, like you when you go through the emotions of knowing that your name's out there to then it's like, oh shit, I'm probably going. It's terrifying. CJ wasn't even at that point a close ally of mine. We were close, but after the Billy vote, we had lunch, and CJ was like, "We need to talk," and he was like, "I'm fucking pissed off at you right now," like, and because CJ, he's very, he says what he means. So I'm like, well, okay, I'm gonna vote him off soon. That's what I'm thinking, because I can't work with this guy anymore. I'm like, how am I gonna get? I'm like, how am I gonna get him and his pendant out of here? That's what I'm thinking. And so then in the vote, it quickly realized that I'm dead in the water. So I'm like, I have to ask CJ if he's gonna use if he could use the pendant on me. That to me, this was like not even like, oh, I was so scared. So I go to him and I'm like, "Hey, can we use the pendant?" I didn't realize that he was already considering using it somehow and to give it to Sarah. He came into the vote thinking to give the pendant to Sarah to get me out of the game. That's how he was originally thinking. But then now he is like, okay, I'll give it to Josh to get rid of AJ or whatever. So he's like, yeah, I need you to create a scene and vote at the person I want. And his idea was he was going to get run across the room during the vote and just put it on my neck in front of everyone. And I'm like, listen, CJ, no, 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 no.
That's
You're
a
giving.
lot.
I'm like, CJ, you give that to me right now, and I'm not doing this whole theatrics with you. I mean, so I said I'll keep up my end of the bargain, but I want the pendant right now. And he did. And he said, I want you to get rid of AJ. And I'm like, oh my gosh. AJ was someone who I was like kind of close with. Um, and like the show doesn't really show it, but like AJ and I spent a lot of like time together. We were like basically like really good. We were close friends in the game to then rivals later on. But I didn't really want to even do AJ. I was gonna do Rocky or Taylor in the boat. But I I had to basically listen to CJ's request on that. Otherwise, I'd have no friends.
But did you really have to?
I know. Part of me was like, shit, how this would be so fucking dirty if I vote out Rocky or Taylor here. But I'm like, I need someone, I need someone to like go to bat for me. And it's like, I know, and CJ has confirmed it with me. He's like, if I voted out anybody except for AJ there, I would have been dead to him in the game. And it's like,
But then could you have used that, like he wanted me to vote you out, AJ?
I think AJ and I would have been a lot closer in the game, which would have been really helpful. But I also know, and I'm so when I blindsided AJ before knowing there was the comeback competition, I was really, really like it really, really hurt me to do that. Because I'm like, AJ's a really good guy. He was felt like a close ally of mine. Like I felt like I did him dirty. Because me and AJ didn't even want to vote for each other. When the round started, we both mentioned voting out Sarah as a possibility to Rory. And Rory was basically like, nope, not gonna do it. And Rory was set on voting for me. So it's like it doesn't make sense to vote out AJ because it feels like why were the both two names on the bottom? We should go for someone else. So I felt really dirty for that. But I watching the show, AJ had a lot of friends in that game. So I don't know where I would have stacked up if I didn't vote him out. So at the end of the day, that's not one of the huge regrets of mine. So I'm okay with my decision on that.
Yeah. And obviously it brings you and CJ closer. You
Mhm.
guys are kind of in the same boat, not in the greatest boat at this point in the game, but in the
Yeah,
same
I
boat.
mean, I was really thinking that things were gonna like shake up, eventually. Slow,
Yeah.
like, but they really didn't. Because everyone, the issue with the issue with the season is everybody felt like they were in the in. There was like there was the six, right? Basically every single person on jury um thought that they were in tight with certain people who were all in tight with different people. So there's layers upon layers of like this alliance. So like, and it's so easy for people to target me in the game and use me as a name to build relationships with other people because so like people were scared to want to work with me and like I just thought the game was going to be way more fluid than it was, but that's just how it is. It's a live game. The times are tight, times are short, so people were just going to stick with what they know and who they trust, because there's not too much time in general. But um
Yeah. Um, but Josh, you find kudos on you for watching the previous seasons and knowing that, you know, there is the pendant of power hidden in that challenge where
mhm.
you dive under the thing and you go searching for stuff in the ball pit,
Yep.
basically. Um, and you kind of have this lifeline for yourself. That was another vote where it's like kind of cut and dry. They're gonna split their votes onto you and your main ally at that point, CJ. Um, you kind of were making a plea at some points to, vote out Ozzy. So what was again, I spoke to CJ and he said he didn't really confirm until you guys were actually going into vote that you guys were pinning your votes on Ozzy.
Yeah.
So run me through the decision to do that.
So, oh my God, it was a mess. That was a mess. Um, Basically I find the pendant. There was no way I was gonna win that competition. So just because like I have pretty bad memory to begin with, so I couldn't even remember some of the game questions. And so I find the pendant, perfect. Now when AJ wins, my thought process was maybe there's a chance AJ can give me co-captain. So that's why I didn't tell anyone about the pendant, just in case he does give me co-captain. That way I'll have it in my pocket for the next round. So that's why, and AJ was kind of wiffle waffling about giving me co-captain, even though watching the episode, there was never a chance in hell he was going to do it. So my plan was to idol out Rocky at the time, and he gives Rocky co-captain. So I'm like, well, shit. And so then once he gets Rocky co-captain, we go to when we're walking to go vote, I whisper in CJ's ear, I'm like, I got the pendant, vote for Ozzy. Because I didn't want to tell him I had the pendant in case I got co-captain, because then I would have kept that to myself. Um so
I think
um
Ozzy calls you out during
oh yeah,
that.
because he's
He's
like,
like,
because there's a rule in Ascendance that you're not supposed to talk when you go up to get the vote. But it's like, listen, better to ask for forgiveness than permission.
Josh, some rules are made to be broken.
So like, look, when you're in line to go vote, there's eye contact. There were times where like I wasn't sure who to vote, and I'd be like, and they'd be like, yeah, yeah. So like, yeah, there's little subtle cues. So I was just with like, I just did a slight whisper to him, and everyone saw me, and I actually thought for the longest time that me doing that is why they split their votes, but they had it. It was set the whole time. I didn't think that they were going to split their votes because in Ascendance you have 20 minutes. It's splitting votes is messy, and they didn't do it last time, but they did it this time, and good on them. But yeah, that was my thought process on that. I told him last second to do it, and he did it, but it just wasn't there. And then when the vote tied, there was nothing we can do. We would have needed Taylor and AJ to flip, but that was never going to happen. AJ says that if I would have told him I had the pendant, he would have given me co-captain, and then we would have worked it out. I don't believe that for a second. I really don't. But oh no, he told me, Josh, if you had given me the pendant, I would have given you co-captain. And I'm like, I don't know about that one, Chief. But
Do you think that's not a fair trade?
um, I think it is a fair trade. Um, but if he gave me co-captain, I wouldn't have given him the I don't know. You know, I think what's kind of understated in this game for me is um it's really difficult being it's really difficult and meant actually very exhausting, the position that I was in.
Yeah.
Because I was in this position for probably like 2 days straight, feeling like completely alone, where I was breaking down, like I was like, there's no one to trust but myself. So like any any game incentive moves were just for myself. Like no one trusted me. Um, I mean, obviously a lot of the decisions I made were on me, but like to be kind of like to be yelled at by multiple people in the same day. That was the same day. The Billy thing and the Rocky thing was the same day. It was horrible. It was really tough on me. It was exhausting. It was the game. I was loving it. I was loving playing the game, but like, man, by the end of it, I was ready to go. Like I was ready to I was ready to go home.
Were you surprised that like the following round, you're eligible to be voted, people have been trying to get you out for a couple rounds,
Mhm.
but you're able to not be voted out and get Sarah to get voted out. I mean, there's a plan put in place to get Sarah voted out, and you kind of just were like, you know
Yeah.
what, if it's not me at that point, right?
So that's one of the rounds I remember really clearly. Um Going to that final seven comp, it's like I have to win or I'm out. And Taylor wins it. And I had been working on her
Which, not to cut you off, Josh, but that competition, I want to ask about your strategy. You were bent, like
bent.
completely over. You got
I
the
know it was
glasses
bad.
falling
It was
off.
bad.
Was
I
that was that what you want? Like,
No,
were you
no, no,
just
not at
stuck in that
all.
position?
I got stuck in that position. Like you had the cubes and like holding the cubes. I couldn't get that to my chest. So I was barely able to lift it off of the stool. So I was so low and I'm obviously so tall. And it was like I'm I'm like 5 minutes in. I'm like, I don't even know if I made it 5 minutes. It was like I was first out. I tried like singing to distract them for a couple of seconds. So once I lost that, I'm like, I'm done. I'm ready to go. And they told us that the vote was going to be in the morning. And I'm like, okay, maybe I can pitch my case, but I'm assuming I'm gone. And what happened was we go to have dinner, and we everyone has dinner in the other house together. And I was eating, and I was sitting next to like my friends. Like I was sitting next to Emily and CJ and Connor, and I was eating dinner there, and all the other players were back in the normal house, and I was staying there, and I'm like, I really wish the vote out was tonight because everyone here is having so much fun, and I don't want to be in that house with them. Like I was done at this point. I was done. I was finished. And then production was like, Josh, you've been here for like 2 hours. You need to go. And I'm like, I'm still eating. And I'm just picking at my food.
You
And I'm
stay
like,
here.
I want to like genuinely I didn't want to leave the game, but like I was like checked out at that point because I'm like, what's the point? Three, like, you know, Rocky and I haven't even spoken for like 4 rounds straight. And the fact that Rocky and I didn't speak from like 2 o'clock to like midnight. in a live game. That's insane. That is so much time in a game. Rocket is
That's
not,
like 2 weeks in Survivor
yeah, that's literally like, you know,
on
it,
the
it,
same beach.
I don't know how two people can coexist without speaking that long in a game together, but we did. And so I felt I was done. And then when I come to the house, they all want to play board games and stuff. No one's talking game. And I'm like, everyone's like, I want to go to bed at like 11:30 at night. And I'm like, oh my God, they're all just ready to just vote me out. I'm like, tomorrow is the finale, y'all. Like, is this the way we're gonna go about it? Like, what's everybody's end game plans? It's insane to me. And so then Rocky is like, Josh, can we talk about, like, he wants to like bury the hatchet with me and, like, talk about our personal friendship. And I'm like, okay. And then he brings up blindsiding Sarah, and I'm like, oh my gosh, perfect. Um, Sarah was someone who I invested in so much in this game, but she never delivered for me. Um, every round was always like, "Oh, Josh, I would love to make a move with you, but I just couldn't. I just can't." So, play the game before the game plays you. So I had to do what I had to do. Um, and so then basically me, Rocky, Marcelo, Taylor were gonna blindside Sarah, and basically that was all I was given. I wasn't really assured anything after that. But
Did you ever think about, hell, why not run it back and just tell Sarah what everybody's doing? Not this time.
no, I if I told Sarah that, my ass would have gone home that round. Because Sarah was always paranoid, and like anything I ever told her, she told someone else. So if I told her, hey, they're gonna blindside you, she would have ran it right back to Rocky and Marcelo, and then they would have been like, no, 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 and then I would have been out seventh. The only way this would have worked is if I had her hiding in the closet, hearing it for herself. And in retrospect, I should have done that. I should have been like, Sarah, hide in this closet and listen to this conversation right now. But I I don't even know what we could have done, because had she really known that they were gonna all turn on her, it could have been me, her, Ozzy, and we would have needed one more. And AJ Taylor, Rocky Marcello were never gonna split up. So I was in like a rock and a hard place there. What I was hoping was that after Sarah was blindsided, Ozzy now would have been on my side. Now I was thinking, now, a 4-3 split, the game is going to kind of reshuffle maybe, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and we kind of got a little bit of a glimpse of that into this next round, where AJ wins captain again, and you're really kind of pleading with him, to save you
Mm-hmm.
as co-captain and vote out Rocky,
Yeah.
hopefully with Ozzy. And at that point, the other two probably would have voted with Rocky onto Ozzy, or but at least you kind of see rocks at that point with a couple of people on your side being safe. But yeah, it's crazy. Why do you think you just couldn't get through to AJ to save you here in your last dying
Man,
effort?
I was played so hard that round because AJ wins and he tells me he's going to give me co-captain. And there's no reason to lie, There's no reason to lie at all. And so I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna flip this game. And if he would have done that, my as final six, I told AJ, look, me and you are like public enemy number one and public enemy number two. The issue is you just don't know that yet, because you have been safe all these rounds. So everyone's going to tell you what they want you to tell you because you're safe, but they're going to come after you. I mean, like, you could see through the episodes, everybody's waiting for AJ to lose. So I'm like, if you and I team up, we'll actually make the final two. And I was willing. AJ would have been the person I was going to go all the way to the end with, and that would have been quite a story. But I wanted him. If he gave me co-captain, everyone else would have eaten themselves. I actually still, to this day, like, I still think that would have been the correct game move. he's in the top three now. But like I just thought that was the correct move on his part. But
It
there's
probably, probably would have been the easier route if everything were to fall correctly in your guys' way that round, right? Because then he doesn't have to potentially win out. Because as we see in these next couple episodes, if he doesn't win, he probably was the person
yeah,
getting
like I
voted
don't
out.
know, if if me and AJ were both vulnerable at top six, I'm not sure if I would have gone over him. Who knows? Maybe they take the shot at him there or a
Right.
five. But I, obviously I voted him out. I've double crossed him a few times, and we had a lot of history in the game, in the short game that we played. So like I understand why he was skittish of me because I was trying to just take the best road at any given moment, and if anyone offered me something good, I would take it. And if someone offered me something better, I would take that. But sometimes like the logical decisions aren't always the ones you should take. So I understand why he didn't do it, but I was hoping it. And then once he didn't give me co-captain, I knew it was toast.
Yeah.
I knew it was toast. But
So obviously everybody at that point voted you out 5-1. But you stand up and you say something, and I don't know if I heard exactly what you said. So I think you said something about the snake. So
oh
what
yeah,
what did you
yeah.
say?
Oh, I know. I stood up and I went out of frame like an idiot. I basically said, I'm like, okay, like the snake. I'm like the snake of the game has finally died. I was like being all theatrical. I'm like, I guess I didn't hit my win condition of like killing everyone.
Okay. Little
But it was
throwback to the
the
competition.
hierarchy because I was the snake in hierarchy.
Yeah.
He's fitting. Um, so there was that, and then like I was I don't even remember half the stuff I said, but it was basically like it was an honor to play with everyone, and like it was quite a journey. It really was, and I made a lot of great friends, but that was it.
So just an overarching question to kind of wrap this up before I ask my final question. Um, you mentioned fighting from the bottom from a like pretty much, from that get-go. Um,
Hmm.
not the get-go, but from when, you kind of turn on Billy. Um, did you at one point did you feel like, okay, this is going to be an uphill battle for me from this like kind of this point on?
Oh, the uphill battle started when I was on the team with when Rory was captain and Rory was gunning for me the round that I had to use a pendant on myself. Once that happened, I'm like, oh gosh, okay. I didn't think that it was gonna be like that uh crazy. Like I didn't think people were going to like take it that seriously. Like I had just voted with like four other people. I assumed, okay, we're going to be tight. There's going to be sides. I wanted sides to happen, but um, I think after after that round, I knew it was going to be an uphill battle, and it basically I remember every morning, I was I'd wake up and I would say like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, and then that wouldn't happen. And the next day, I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm like, Josh, you have no idea what's gonna happen today. It's you could say you could think this is gonna happen, but it's not. But you're gonna make it somehow. You're gonna make it to the end of the day, and that happened for 2 more days. So I'm like, when we go into the finale day, I'm like, I know it looks like you're not going to make it, but you're gonna make it to the end. I didn't make it to the end, but I think the overarching thing is that anyone who's watching this who will eventually play Ascendance Live is you can do so much with just grit, heart, and like determination, right? Like just squeeze the orange until there's nothing left. And I truly like on paper, I'm watching the episodes. I'm so shocked I even made it to where I made it. Like I should have been clipped so many times, but you know.
And that's the beauty of the game, Josh. Um, you can find yourself on a winning team. You can find yourself winning into, a captain. You can find a co-captain, powers in the game. There's always the opportunity to squeak one more round and squeak another round. And I'll tell you something. you definitely squeaked out a couple that we did not see coming here on
I
Lost
know.
at Sea.
I
We
know.
were surprised you made it as far as you did. So that's a testament to you. And like you said, the grit. But the last question I have for you for this exit interview is, what was your favorite part of the entire experience? Could be the game, could be something else.
Yeah, my favorite part was like after the game, like spending that time with like Connor and Emily and like CJ and like Erica. Like those were like people who I really was able to like genuinely have fun with, and like at the end of the day, like those were like my friends. Um, so like that part was just so exciting for me. You know, some like underrated things for me, just like just going outside and enjoying that beautiful view, like 4 a.m. looking at the stars was just so calming to me, especially because I needed that calmness. But the whole process of it all, like when you getting like arriving there and then they're like player 10 has arrived on the little walkie-talkies, and they're like, okay, they're like, is they're like, can player 10 go to the whatever room? And they're like, yes, clear. And they move me in because you can't see, they don't want you to see anyone or hear anyone. So that is, it felt like I'm like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing right now? So that was really cool. But like
You're
to
like,
show like,
am I entering Squid Game right now?
I don't know if I'm saying too much, but
No, you're
I
fine.
know yeah, everyone had the little things on their ear, the production, and but yeah, I mean, the I touched on it earlier, but like at the final seven when I was just having dinner, like I just had like so much fun just eating dinner with like a lot of people who were already eliminated, and I'm like, I cannot wait for this experience to be over just so I could experience this, you know, like everyone just having fun together because we're here killing each other. But you know, once I'm ready for, like, obviously I wanted to win. I was gonna do whatever it took to win, but like I was really excited for after the game. And we experienced that the next 2 days, and it was too short. I really wish it was longer, but it was amazing.
Well, that's awesome to hear, Josh. Appreciate you coming on the podcast again to, discuss all the shenanigans that
Yeah,
happened this season. And obviously, you're not finished with this season. We will see how you end up voting, and your reasoning why, on Thursday. So I look forward to that. But just want to let you know that, like, it was a pleasure watching you this season. A lot of fun moments, a lot of big moves, and
thank you.
um, I think you brought a lot to the season, man.
So would you say I'm like the biggest villain Ascendance has seen yet?
I said that as soon as you made the move on Billy. I think that was the biggest villain move I've ever seen in the game. And then, you followed it up with a couple more. And
No.
it's fun to watch for me. So, I mean, even if you don't want to be called the villain, I feel like you might be the biggest villain that this game's ever seen.
I know, like it's not. I don't like take pride in that title, but just a little bit.
It's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool to like to have like um as like a little story behind you, and like at the end of the day, like I feel like this season can't be talked about without certain things I did, which is also cool. But I'm glad with my experience overall.
Awesome, Josh.